Hello friends, and welcome back to the garden. Today I wanted to talk about designing your garden not just for space but also for time. You could call this syntropic sequencing. There's probably other names you could use for it. In syntropic agriculture or syntropic farming, um, there's a technique whereby plants are planted in the beginning and they serve a purpose for a while, and eventually they're phased out. They're removed from the project, um, replaced with something else, or in some cases just removed from the project because things have grown so much there's just not room for them anymore. And this is a technique that allows you to capture more sunlight and basically not waste any sunlight or not waste as much sunlight right from the get-go. And you don't have to wait for your trees and your bigger plants to have several years to grow to get up big enough to get to their full production. You can start getting full production right away, or you can at least be getting the maximum amount of soil building right away. So this technique I'll just call it syntropic sequencing, because this is used a lot in syntropic agriculture. I don't know, there's probably other terminology out there for this. But anyway, here in our backyard food forest, it's way more informal than an agriculture situation where people are depending on making money from their crop. Out here I'm just trying to create some shade to make my backyard cooler and more comfortable, grow some food to eat, and provide habitat for wildlife. But so it's not as serious, I guess, or formal as syntropic agriculture, but that doesn't mean we can't apply some of those same techniques here and take advantage of designing your garden for changes that occur over time, but to take advantage of things right from the beginning and not wait for that production that comes later. There's many different ways you can do this. Here's a spot right here that's got some examples of it. So the main tree for this spot right here, and eventually we'll get big and shade out this entire patch. That's going to be this Japanese persimmon here. It's my little Saijo Japanese persimmon that I just planted a few weeks ago. That's a little tree right now. It looks like it's about 4.5 feet tall, but eventually it's going to grow. And like I said, from where I'm standing all the way to the house, it's going to be really shady. All of this area back behind it's going to be shady. So I have the sun to my back right now, and I'm looking towards the north, towards my house. So while this little tree is growing, it's going to take a few years for it to get on up. I can take advantage of that. And I've got things like pineapple. That needs a lot of sun. There's another pineapple over there. And I've got other things like this Brazilian spinach. And then right here, this Okinawa spinach. I've even got sweet potatoes in here. Eventually even this rosemary. It's going to be too shady in here for the rosemary to do very well. This lemongrass, it needs a lot of sun. It's going to get too shady for it eventually. And it'll probably eventually, when the tree gets really big, it's probably even going to shade out my oregano here. I might still get a little bit of production out of these garlic chives, but truthfully I'll probably just transplant those to a different spot where they can get a little bit more sun at that point. But that's actually going to be a few years from now. Here's another plant that's a temporary plant that will just be removed. This is cranberry hibiscus, the green version of it. So long term, I know that I want my wax myrtle here, this little bitty plant here. I want that to be the main plant in this area. It's a nice little native nitrogen fixer, so it'll help put nitrogen in the ground for my persimmon there. And so what I did was I just came in and I pruned back this hibiscus. And the hibiscus is it's a tropical, short-lived perennial. that's not going to live that long anyway. The wax myrtle is the priority here, so we just prune back on this. If it gets cold this winter, it may kill this all the way to the ground, and it may not come back real well next year or at all. We'll have to see what happens with that. Another thing where I'm sort of planning for the future here is that if we get really, really cold, my little winter Mexican avocado here could die. There's even a possibility it could grow up pretty big in this area and then die on a real cold weather event. But like I said, I do have this Japanese persimmon. That's going to take over the whole area. Something else that's behind it, and when I say behind, when I say behind the plant, I'm always talking about to the north of the plant. So it's going to be in the shade with the sun being in the south. So behind this persimmon also I have this thornless blackberry that I just pulled up out of the Okinawa spinach it was buried in. I put it up in this cage for a trellis, and this plant also will be more productive now while it's sunny for the next 2 or 3 years, and as time goes on it'll get shaded out and get less productive. I also have these moringas and these chayas in here. The chayas will definitely get less productive when they get shaded out. But since these are tropical species anyway, the moringas and the chayas, you know, I'm not depending on them to make it. We could get some cold weather and they could freeze to the ground easily. Let's keep moving around the garden. Well, for north central Florida, the Mexican sunflower is probably the quintessential Syntropic sequencing plant. All of these that I have, I probably have about 40 of them. A few years from now, I don't expect any of them to remain. By then, they'll all be gone. But in the meantime, I'm using them to do chop and drop mulching. Also using them to help cast some shade on the ground so that my whole garden is beginning to get the shadiness of a forest, so that I can get all the forest ecosystem up and running. Let's see, here's another area right here with another persimmon. This will take over this whole area. Again, I have it paired with a Brogdon avocado in this case. Let's see what we've got behind it. Well, we've got more pineapple. A lot of this stuff is just some herbs. That's just African blue basil there. But there's another pineapple back there. I did have the bananas back here, and now I'm just considering them as a chop and drop plant because the cold wiped them out, and it didn't kill them, but I don't expect to get much productivity out of my bananas, at least for a few years. And once I get more canopy cover in here, then maybe it'll be a warm enough microclimate for the bananas. But that's not going to be the case, I don't think, for the next 3 years or so. And there's another cranberry hibiscus, the red form. So we're getting harvest from all our cranberry hibiscus. We like to put those leaves in with our salads. I think may still have some sweet potatoes in here. Oh, that's interesting. So there's that looks like a Everglades tomato right there. And that's just a volunteer. Once you have Everglades tomato in your garden, you're probably going to have them for a while. And we're getting some productivity out of our Okinawa spinach over here. And there's some longevity spinach right in there. And another cranberry hibiscus. Again, over here I have another wax myrtle. This little guy right here. So that's going to grow along with that one right there. And they're gonna take over in this area here. Even they will eventually, many years from now, 5 to 7 years from now at least, even they will be shaded out somewhat by this persimmon since they are behind it. Let's keep going around the garden and look for more examples. Now I've got all sorts of opportunities in my garden where I really have not yet taken advantage of this Syntropic sequencing strategy. This coming summer, I don't think this persimmon right here will be casting too much shade that I couldn't grow maybe some okra right in here. So that's another thing. You can use annual vegetables, annual plants as part of this idea too. The only thing I caution about that is when you're done with those plants at the end of the growing season, don't rip them out of the ground. I don't. I just cut them off at ground level. I leave the roots undisturbed. That way they can decompose and help with the soil, soil nutrition and nutrients and the fertility of the soil. Here's another example where all this Okinawa spinach, longevity spinach, is actually not going to be shaded. I'm just looking around. I mean, this moringa is not going to, I mean, it might shade it. It really just depends on how mild the weather is. But it is tropical. If it gets cold, it dies back. But, oh yes, exactly. Here's what I was looking at. So here's another Japanese persimmon right here. And again, it's small. It's 3.5 feet. So, and from where I'm standing right now, you can see that those herbs are behind it to the north. They're going to get shaded out by this persimmon big time eventually. So that's another example. And back here we've got some of the red cranberry hibiscus. It will get completely shaded out by the wax myrtle there eventually. But it's got another year to be productive. Let's keep looking around and see what else we can see on this. These peach trees are relatively short-lived trees. So when they die, I probably will, I'll put probably a pollinator support shrub, like a local native pollinator support shrub, something like that in their place. And when these Mexican sunflowers are ready to come out a few years from now, I may put peaches where they're at. And right now I have an opportunity to put something in all this space right here. I just haven't gotten that far yet. So let's keep going here. You know, eventually, it's going to be a while, but eventually this red mulberry tree here and this Fuyu persimmon right here, these two trees, boom and boom, they're going to shade out these blueberries right here. But it'll be 3 years. I'll probably have good 3 years of productivity out of these blueberries, and then they'll begin to be impacted by the shade, but they'll still be productive, just not as productive. And you know, so forth and so on. A lot of these plants are small. Again, a little wax myrtle here, and it'll get big. Of course, I can chop and drop the wax myrtles just like I do the Mexican sunflowers. So that just gives you an idea. Syntropic sequencing, capture all the sunlight that you can while you can, and plan for things to get shadier and for some things to be removed or die because of old age. All right, that's a little word on syntropic sequencing, or designing for the changes over time. All right, everybody, y'all take care and happy gardening now.